So this is a good jumping point. I really just wanted to ask you about that mug and the mug that you hit because we almost knocked it over three times.
I'll bring it back up.
I'm just wondering, are these new?
No.
You've had these? That looks new.
This is new.
Yeah.
This guy is old.
This has been around.
I could tell. I see a little chip on the bottom.
Yeah,
and we've never grinded like the bottom to fix it.
So when was that mug like produced?
5 months ago.
5 months ago?
I would say like right before the holidays.
I'm gonna say because it looks old, but it doesn't look too old. Like I could see in the design.
Yeah, it's just
like,
not a
got
newer design. Yeah.
This is probably 1 month ago.
But those ripples Mike started doing, I would say, what, in the fall?
Yeah, I was kind of trimming in these like concentric lines because I think the glaze hits it really well.
Yeah.
And then, but the shape of that mug is very kind of like basic, not in a bad way, but like just that's like almost like just like the silhouette of the mug is like very like quintessential mug, whereas this I think is more like.
It's funny because you're telling me there's like about a 5-ish month gap in between those, but really it looks so different. And I'll even look at your shelf over there, and this is something that people who are watching, I even hate saying that. I don't know why I said that. I just told you I was going to make it sound like a podcast.
It's fine.
It's okay.
Keep going. That's what you got.
I walk in and I always see something new on that table, right? I mean, those vessels are usually pretty much the same. There's usually some new glaze, and that's nice. But really, what you guys offer is kind of ever evolving. And I noticed it kind of went from basic shapes, even in the matter of a couple months, to more complex. Like that actually has a body to it and looks like something unique. And I just kind of am curious about your guys' creative process.
Yeah, I think 5 months ago was like going into the holidays or kind of mid holidays, and we're always feeling like we're playing catch up and not having enough stuff. And I think that this was just like classic mug design was an easy, like, for me it's like a journey of like what makes a good mug, and I wasn't kind of ready to take that plunge into something more like different, or like I didn't know what I wanted to make, so I'm like, I'm just gonna stick with a standard because it's the holidays and we got to get this stuff out, and I could make a bunch. I was, I could just do it quick and
don't have to think about it
too much about it. And then that kind of like, you put those out and then you kind of almost buy yourself a little bit of time and to think about like what actually you want to make. And I don't think there's ever like you're there. It's kind of always this like changing thing. But yeah.
So what do you think kind of changes in your guys' mind? Because obviously the glazing part, I know that's Liv's department.
Yes.
It's always really cool, right? Because I remember you kind of you have like your basic colors, and then now like that clearly has something going on where there's different colors. And that one is like actually one of my favorite glazes, where it almost kind of looks like beach and ocean coming up on it.
Yeah. Super iridescent in a way too.
Yeah. So I guess my thought is, where do you even get the ideas from? I know you guys travel a lot. I know you guys are kind of getting a lot of nature inspired. How do you even think like, oh, I want this mug to look different, instead of just saying like, oh, we just make good mugs? Like,
it's a great question.
That is a great question. Honestly, like, yeah, we get a lot of our inspiration from nature. Like we went to, we love to go to Island Beach, and we were there, and there's a ton of shells down there. There's not that many up here when you go to the beach, but down there, we're walking around, and there's just like these huge shells that all have like all these super intricate, like weird colors and designs on the inside. And honestly, I just take photos of them. And then I very, very rarely will use just one single glaze color. I typically like to layer. And that's where like the fun happens, and you don't really know what you're gonna get, but then it can also get frustrating like if it's not coming out the way you want it to. But like for example, this one is just our like, it's like just our, what glaze color is this again?
That's I think Riptide under eggshell.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think Riptide over eggshell.
Riptide
See, look,
over
he's got
eggshell.
good. Yeah.
Oh, because the eggshell is probably like that whitish.
That's like the iridescent,
it's like an
crystally.
iridescent. And so when the eggshell is like being really behaving really well, which it's finicky because it can get a little yellow. It pulls this really pretty, almost sparkly-ish design, and then you put just like a little blue over it and it drips down, and that's when it's really fun when Mike's using a lot of texture to see what the glaze will react like when it's applied to a certain piece. Because if it's it's just a flat, smooth surface, it might look really different than if it's on, a textured surface. So that's always fun.
And then I guess back to the nature element, the concentric lines are kind of like whenever the ocean is like, there's a lot of swell in the ocean, you can like look out and call it like corduroy lines on the ocean, and that's always like kind of like I try to focus on whenever I see something and it creates like a physical response.
I see.
And then it's like, ooh, pay attention to that. So that's kind of the reason. And then that's like the hidden theme, but also I know that the glaze is going to really like it too. So
that's cool. So I guess that kind of leads me to you guys now. I think you just have 2-year anniversary of the studio.
We're coming up on
Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.
So then but this isn't like the business is older than 2 years though.
Yes.
But
it feels like
we have to trick our brain into that we're only in for 2 years,
which it really does feel like it. I mean, each year we've taken such a big leap that it's almost like we're starting back at year one. So now, like, being in a space, having a storefront, offering classes, like, now it really feels like, okay, we can actually count, from starting the studio almost as, like, we've been developing our product since 2019.
Yeah, the concept happened in 2019, and then it was like home studio, going to markets, see if people like them, and then kind of.
Well, the original idea was just candles, right?
Mm-hmm. Refillable.
It wasn't even the pottery at all. It was just
100%. Yeah. But then with the idea there was always a question mark on it of like what made a good vessel, design and material, and then Liv's mom was like, you should make them out of clay. And I was like, let's try it. And kind of just went.
So I guess through that point, because, it's been a few years, you guys are a couple years in this studio. To me, and this is outside perspective, I mean, obviously I know you guys well enough and we've worked together on a few things by now, but I would consider you guys pretty successful. I mean, you're in a nice beach town. You are open 2 years, you have regular client base, you have a really good community. That's something I love talking about so much because we were talking about YouTube before the show. Much like YouTube, one of the hardest things to get metric-wise is a subscriber. So hard to get someone to click that subscribe button. You guys have that in real life where it's just like you just need someone who kind of subscribes to your store and is going to come here all the time, whether it be for candle refills, the next new mug, because I know those are changing all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe a class or whatever. But I think I'm just really curious what your guys' definition of success is as far as a business, because you guys, like, to me, and I think to anyone watching this, you're kind of killing it. Like, this place is beautiful and you have a lot of cool stuff going on.
Thank you. That means a lot.
That's a hard question.
Yeah, I also, it wasn't totally a question either. I
I think it's a good question.
Yeah, it is. It's a good one, but a hard one.
Maybe if it's I don't want to cut you off, but maybe another way to look at it is like, where do you guys see yourself, like, on the tails of succeeding? Like, where do you see that going? Like what's the Lovelight formula in your mind like that?
I definitely, like, through the lens that you kind of put forth, I think that there are definitely elements of success here that we can really celebrate. And to be honest, I thought we were going to come up with this idea. I was just going to spend a little bit of money on it, and if I lost it all, like if it just went to zero, I'd have like almost like a business school education in real time.
Sure.
For not as much money as going to business school. That was like my original concept. I didn't even really think that, I thought the idea was good, but like it was like, hey, I didn't really see any of this. So on that standpoint, like, yes, we are definitely more successful than I ever thought we would be.
We each put like $2,500 into to start into like when we opened up our bank account. We're like,
Like, I could lose this.
Well, yeah, we're like, that's okay.
That's like gambleable amount of money.
Bought some clay.
Yeah, bought some clay. We were using my mom's studio. That's like where we started.
Got like a tent for the markets and a table, and just kind of like went.
And the focus.
And we winged it.
Well, the focus was candles too, because I think you guys said like you started making the vessels, and that was kind of a wave in itself.
And like first market, we were like, you don't have to bring it back to us to refill. You can just like when the refill component actually we like brought that to the market, people were immediately like, I actually have that issue with candles. Like they build up and I don't refill them and they just sit in a closet. So I think initially it was like validating that we were, every business kind of has to solve a problem. So it was like we identified a real problem and we created a solution for the problem. So like as far as that goes, I think that's successful, but I think that, and I don't think we're far off. I'm really proud of what we're doing in here. I think like the community that we're fostering is really cool. I think people are dying to have experience with clay. There's something really grounding about it. And like as we're on phones and technology more, I think there's something about like touching that clay that's really important. And a lot of people come in and they have this whole narrative about how they're not creative or they weren't good in art class or whatever. I'm kind of one of them. And you just get to like break that narrative a little bit, which is like really fun. But I think like success will be when we're like a little bit more financially safe. Like we're not kind of like out of the doghouse yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the tough part. The metrics of success these days, and it's kind of always like this, is it boils down to numbers, right?
Yeah.
How much are you making? How many people are viewing this video? How much this, how much that? But really, it's like I don't want to say it's a mistake, because there's reasons why those metrics are considered, why people will measure, but it doesn't tell the whole story at all.
I think whenever we get really caught up in like the finances and the metrics, as you were just saying, I think it's really important to even just remember where we were a year ago or, even 6 months ago. And, bringing kind of like the focus back to that and just looking at it, that's when I feel like we can be really proud of ourselves and feel really confident in what we're doing, because, it's even like the processes that we bring like work through the studio, how we run our classes, it's like we have come a really far way. And it's crazy what even just a couple months can do, right? Because it's like you set up one thing and you're like, oh, thank goodness. Now I don't have to like think about that really anymore. And it frees up time and you're able to allocate, energy to other aspects of the business. So I think that's also important. Like we try to remind each other of that when there are, because there are really hard days,
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. And there's going to be.
That's why you're in it together. It's good to have that. You remind yourselves, because I mean, I'm not going to, I haven't owned a physical storefront, but I know especially in this area, things are not cheap, and that's its own sorts of stresses. But like, largely speaking, I feel like you guys haven't even fully tapped into like your final form, really.
Totally.
No, it feels like we
we're like just scratching.
Yeah,
we're like just scratching the surface.
And even on like the financial side, like that is kind of boring. I think you could say, but like I think it's really, it's a part of it that, just like getting better and improving is like its own thing. Like that's really it. You can almost turn it into a game. Obviously, like our financial life is on the line, but thinking about it as a game kind of takes yourself away from that. And then it's just decisions and resources and like, what's the plan?
Do the next right thing.
Just do the next right thing.
Yeah.
No, it's true. It's being in the flow and where you're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to be doing, which I think you guys are, to me, it looks like you're doing really well. I mean, even me being able to set up this table, like this table we're set up on in the middle of your shop, probably countless hours you guys are grinding handmade
every day.
Tables.
Every single day. And here we are just kind of having a little conversation on it. But, as far as like, your guys evolving. I know you're planning, or you're already doing like YouTube content things. I'm not sure how much like your base knows about YouTube endeavors or things like that. But when I say you're not in your final form, I'm talking from someone who like wants to work with you on stuff like
right.
this.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
to me, I'm like, this is really exciting. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we're talking about all the brick and mortar, all the
right.
little details that aren't maybe as interesting, but there's so many really cool creative endeavors like right around the bend.
Right.
When it comes to this business, anyways.
What do you have to say about that, content queen?
Content's hard.
Well, you're doing the Instagram primarily, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a whole nother beast. And, you know, when you're wearing every single hat, like there are some people out there that I'm like, I don't know how you do it. Like, how do you remember to film yourself every day? How do you remember, you know what I mean? So it's like, and I also...
It's crazy discipline.
It's crazy discipline, but they do it. So I'm like, I could do it too. So I'm trying to get more disciplined about that for sure.
You guys are both on that a little bit because I remember you guys have no, like, you didn't, I don't know if there's like school for this. There probably is, like potteries, candles, all that stuff. But like really you kind of just figured it out.
We're self-taught on everything.
Which is me too.
Yeah.
Like I come from that light too. So
Yeah.
whenever I see that, I'm always just like, let's go. Like,
Do something, fail, right? And then
100%.
do it better the next time.
100%.
And you just continue
Rapid
to figure
iteration.
it out. But yeah, it's more just like getting comfortable in front of the camera, doing more things like this, you know, making it get exciting. One of our really good friends, Colleen, I remember when she's owned her business for a really long time. She's super successful.
Rings, right?
Rings,
Yeah.
yes.
Sure.
Great mentor of ours and just a really good friend. She was like, I remember her telling me, you are the master of what you do, right? So just film it and talk about it and people will enjoy it.
It's
and
true.
I was like, that's so simple.
It's so true. That's actually a big foundation of kind of what I hang my hat on here is, and this is what I was saying when I was talking to Mike, Mike from Little Andy's Mike.
Yeah.
Who actually introduced us. I think our first text chain was through Mike. But it's like, you kind of just become an expert by doing. And if something is interesting to you and you are engaging with it as such, it'll translate. You don't need to really romanticize it too much or try to prop it up in a certain way. Like, you're already doing something cool. You're already doing something unique. You don't need anything else other than, just put a little bit of light on it, let people see it.
For sure. And just getting him in front of the camera.
We're
That's
working
tough.
on that.
We're working
You
on
guys are both,
working on that.
honestly, very honestly, truly genuine feedback. I think you're both very good on camera.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I've seen you both in a couple different contexts. You're just friendly.
That's because you
people.
make us look good on
Yeah.
camera.
There's a lot of editing. A lot of editing behind that.
This one, 0 edits on this one. So make sure you guys
no.
behave for the next 15, 20 minutes
We're
or so.
trying.
I feel like that is like, you can go into an entire podcast about what you guys were just talking about it. Because it's like, for me, it was like, I knew we needed to, like, brick and mortar was never the goal. Like, this was like we needed a better place to make our stuff, and we needed to be able to have customers come pick stuff up wherever that was.
We did like a face.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have a face.
We're doing all these markets, and you can't make while you're selling. So it's like, it'd be cool if we could like make and have somebody walk in, you know, you handle them, and then you go back to making. Like, that's like the most efficient model. So that brick and mortar was like a solution for that. But it was always like online selling of candles was like the initial idea. So we always knew like content, and by making everything ourselves, we knew that there was a risk there in terms of like just making the stuff yourself. And also, it's going to be more expensive than like buying jars from China or whatever. But what you're investing in is like, we could film stuff every single day by just like putting that tripod up and doing what we normally do. And I think the biggest resistance layer for me was just like allowing it to be bad at first. And like just like having the kind of strength to make some bad videos. And it's like, you don't have to put anything out. It's like just nailing down the behavior of doing the thing and then being like, what do I like about it? What do I not like about it? Setup wise, what do I like about it? What do I not like about it?
But I disagree with you there, because I think that you do have to put it out, because you have to see how people react to it.
I think both things are true, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, like the first two videos.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
For me, it's like I'm telling myself that I don't have to put it out.
Okay, cool.
To like give myself that like freedom.
Yeah, it's like a mental,
not
a gymnastic. But,
I know I'm filming myself and I'm like, this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it. And then it's always kind of better than your inner critic is gonna think it is.
Usually.
Sometimes.
Usually. Sometimes there's some
it's not.
flops.
Sometimes it's
Sometimes you're like, whoa,
flops.
yeah. And then you're like, am I being hard on myself or is this?
Or does this suck? Yeah.
But that's been like a really fun part of it because it feels like a real it's been like a monkey on our back the whole time of just like, I know I need to be filming this. I know that this is something that I have to do to like, and I guess what I was saying is like, and yes, put it out because like you want to have this like big channel and like you have to start somewhere.
Well, it's also like you don't know what people like. You might be like, "This video is fire," and people are gonna love it. And you put it out, and no one likes it.
Oh, that's
and then the
for
thing,
sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the thing that you're like, "Oh, this is like whatever," but I'm just gonna post it. Well,
Goes,
you
like,
know,
viral.
yeah, it gets like 14,000 views.
I think that's part of like a product of what you're doing and how much you're into it. Because there is that layer of putting out any kind of media or any kind of content where you put it out and you're like, oh, I know I have to do this, you know, means to an end. And then there's just the thing that you're just doing anyways. And you're just like, oh, this is my day today is throwing this vase and I got to throw this vase, throw the camera up. But you're just throwing vases. Like, that's just a thing you got, like, that you like to do specifically. And then when it comes to the glazing,
Right.
That's when
Yeah.
Liv is doing it. You just
I-
don't have to think about it. Just like you didn't have to think about making a successful piece
Right.
of content.
And I think like the viewer wants to be like a fly on the wall. Like I think that's what makes podcasts successful is like
Agree.
people just want to like be a fly on the wall of a conversation that is interesting. And what I gravitate towards on YouTube is like very long form, like raw, unedited, because I know I could like skip through a section.
Yeah.
So for me, as like now making content, I could give myself that grace of like, hey, if somebody thinks that this part of the thing is boring, they can just
skip.
scrub through it. But I'm showing like the whole unedited process, and then it's like less editing that you have to do, and all of these things that actually maybe aren't value add. Like they could be for a very specific piece of like more advertising content,
Yeah,
but
time
just
and
for
place.
like this is what I did today content, you don't really like need to do that. And I think I was telling myself like I like it needs to be bigger or better or more polished than it actually needs to be.
I mean, even just looking at what you guys have, I mean, I think there's probably a little bit of being a perfectionist that hits both of you. And this is just to kind of catch up the speed. Anyone who's unaware of what you guys do for whatever reason who's still listening to this, like everything's literally handmade. Like everything is handmade. So it's not like, like you said, you're not getting like a price from China where it's cheap bulk because it's on a manufacturing line and it's easy and it's whatever.
Yeah.
Like this is all your time, your effort, and it's from a space where you're not just looking at a blueprint and just printing. You're actually conjuring up the idea, the mental image, sculpting it, and then someone now has that as a piece. So when it does come to scaling up for you guys, how does that even work, right? So you mentioned this, and we don't have to get into details. Like you get a restaurant who's like, wow, we really love what you're producing, but we're a restaurant, so we need a ton of them. Like, what does that do to you guys as far as like a studio and just your day to day?
It's a fun challenge, right?
Yeah.
And this is where Mike's like background comes into play.
Yeah, I used to just like kind of manage, production manage for a furniture shop that did like bulk, like big jobs where everything had to be like. Now the restaurant that we're working with, if they had said we need these like machine perfect, everyone needs to be like indistinguishable, I don't think I would have not done that job because
Impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible for us.
Whereas they want like each one it's a line. The themes are the same. The clay is the same. The glaze that we're using is the same, but each one is one of one in like its very individual characteristics, and they want that. And the customer. I think like it's to have something be the same but also different shows like that it is handmade, and it's cool to see things come back around to that. So I think like with that freedom, it allows us to not overthink, and it's really just like thinking about preparation and like assembly line isn't a sexy word, but like we're going to be doing things very consciously in here, knowing that we have to make 100 of the same plates, but we're not like overthinking them per se. Like we're allowing some individual difference, but we're definitely, I think like efficiency isn't a bad word. Like it's there's a beauty and an art and a science to that.
Well, yeah, so at that point it's precision, right? It's precision of your business, where it's like it doesn't have to be the most accurate, but it probably will be, and it's going to be mostly precise. And that, to me, that if you're a restaurant, that adds a lot of value to your restaurant too. Because when you go out to eat and you're hosting anything, restaurant, whatever it is, like it's all about the experience, how people feel when they're there, what's going on, what are they holding, what are they tasting, all these things that really you can't replicate ever anyways. So having dishware that isn't necessarily replicating one another, to me, like adds a whole ambiance to a restaurant. So there's a reason that, if you're a restaurant, that they're investing in you guys.
Yeah. And like the plates and stuff are like the canvas for their art. So that's what's like, and I love food and cooking. So like I totally like, and I love that part of it. I love that we get to interact with food and like on the basic things, like a mug, you're drinking your morning coffee, or
I like what you just said about like basically your art contributes to their art. Because if they plate something and it's on one of your plates, like even the particular plate is going to make a little, little touch of difference.
For sure.
100%. Yeah. And
presentation, right?
Oh yeah.
It creates like almost like a ceremoniousness, I think, of like it elevates the experience. Where it probably will go into how your brain's going to taste that food.
I agree with that a lot, actually, and it's
like
cool
if you serve something on a cardboard
square,
you're gonna like it could be a Michelin star thing, but if it's not on the right thing, you're gonna like it's gonna enter in.
Yeah, you've already changed the taste in your mind.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. Yeah, that's I never thought about that really for a restaurant, but it makes a lot of sense.
I haven't really either.
If you think like
that's actually super cool to imagine.
Well, if you think like tea sets, right? They're like ornate, and it's like this basic thing of tea.
True.
And the whole design of the teapot and the teacups is to like elevate this experience, and like the tea party is like a elevated thing, I feel like, and it's I don't know. That's
Are you gonna make teapots next?
Honestly,
that would be fun.
I think that'd be a great addition.
I should.
Well,
maybe
something that I think about with you guys is you guys are very experiential in terms of like you have the classes, things where you're getting people to actually use their own hands, make their own things that you make. Obviously, not to the level of what you're making, but I think that's kind of the fun part about it. You really kind of get you can really see the difference between, Mike has 1,000 hours on this plus versus I'm taking this class, I'm touching this clay, and this actually isn't that easy.
It's a hard thing to explain to people, though. Like learning, like having them leave. People come in. So it's funny. You either get, it's like a spectrum. And I feel like you either get somebody who comes in that's like, I am just not going to be able to make anything. I have no talent, nothing. And then you get other people who are like perfectionists and are going to tweak, and mess with it. And then, potentially end up messing up their piece or something like that because they're just thinking too much about it.
Or sit for 25 minutes
and stare at it.
Are incapable to make a decision because they're like, I can't. Like,
I sympathize for that individual.
Yes. And you know what?
But it's like, for us, it's like, give that person a test piece of clay.
Literally.
So they can just try stuff.
So,
and it's like little things like that.
No consequences.
Yeah, right. And we're really good at, trying to get people to where they need to be. But, every once in a while, you come in, you make something, it doesn't make it out of the kiln, and that's kind of like
That's kind of brutal.
It's kind of brutal, but it's also what pottery is. The first thing my mom ever told me when we started ceramics was that it's full of heartbreak.
That's actually,
You know?
it's cool because, that's a cool line for
You do everything right.
Yeah.
You could do literally
doesn't work out.
everything right.
And
one little thing goes wrong in the firing process or, in the glazing process. That's like kind of out of your control.
Yeah, something super real about that. And honestly, it does put your business into perspective too, because that's a daily occurrence, I imagine.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys work on a ton of stuff that just doesn't make it out of there.
I broke one of Mike's vases today.
Yeah.
Loading it into the kiln.
It was never supposed to
wasn't
get there.
I knocked it. I bumped it, and greenware's very fragile.
Which
and
I don't know. I kind of love that about it.
Yeah.
Because you kind of have to stay in this space that you're just ready for it to go wrong, kind of.
So, I mean, we're approaching the time that I kind of had set, but this is a really cool part of the conversation. I think this is a cool takeaway. So, you guys started with candles. You didn't even have a place. Now you have a place. You're doing things you wouldn't have considered. You're doing and a lot of it does bridge across experiences. We're talking about how impactful something you make can be, even an experience at a restaurant.
Right.
We're talking about experiences people have at this table we're sitting at making things. So I guess kind of on a closing note and wrapping things up, you guys in the future, experiential in terms of scaling out, we talked about YouTube and stuff, like what is the one thing that you have in your mind, I guess, where you are like, yeah, this is where we're going as a business right now, or not even as a business, this is what we want to be doing with our day every day? Because you guys get a wide array of experience in this place. So it's your days could really be what you want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
The world is your oyster.
That's a
I think you said
That's
it
that's a really tough question because I feel like
It's
the
a big
business
one.
could go in so many different directions.
I do too.
And I feel like we've spent the last 2 years, ever since opening up the storefront, trying different things and seeing what works, and then what's working, we try to follow that, but then there's other things that could also potentially work that would make our lives a lot easier. Production pottery is definitely, I feel like, a route we would like to go.
Well, that would include, I guess, scaling up your physical space, right?
Right.
Because production,
Yes.
in my mind, means you're producing a lot of something, kind of similar to a restaurant.
Yeah.
We would have a line.
Mm-hmm.
Or several lines.
So then there's that end, and then there's the end of you get yourself online, and we all know about that. We talked about it. I think it was one of the first things we talked about today. Is you're just in your flow doing your unique thing, and other people get to sort of watch that.
Yeah.
Mike, you have I don't know. I said 1,000 hours, but it's probably several thousand hours at this point of just whether it be on the wheel or just making something at this table.
Yeah.
So where it's so highly refined to the average person doesn't conceptualize that time. They just see what you make and you're like, oh yeah, this is a cool vase and this is nice. But really to make that vase is not so simple. And there was a lot of broken vases before you got to that really fine looking one.
Yeah.
And people can, that's something that translates online. You know what I mean? I think people just like seeing skills.
That's what's so nice about the online component is the person that just comes in here to shop doesn't really get to see. They see us making it, but they don't get to see
the whole process.
They don't get to have that fly on the wall experience.
They get a glimpse.
Even the classes and stuff. It's
well, as we do videos, we've done videos for you guys. I could just tell you on that end, it's pretty to me. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just that easily entertained. I don't think it's that, but watching what happens and how the whole process and what you start with, what comes out is truly impressive. I think you can, and we have some videos on your Instagram where, well, you guys do this all the time. You're showing what just came out of the kiln. I love that you guys do that. And so if anyone doesn't know, and again, still with us at this point, you can go look at that. There's posts. So you're seeing something different come out every week. And to me, that is a certain creative endeavor where it's more impressive than anything else, because that is kind of the mark of not really caring. You're not feeling like you're stuck to making anything particular aside from a candle vessel is the only real static piece here.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes we make weird stuff, and that's always really fun.
Yeah. 100%.
What were you going to say?
I was just thinking about the static piece of the candle, and like that's like a nice opposite end of the spectrum. So it's like there's like such regularity in that, and like I just do this, and this, and I have my candle inventory, and it's so just like almost mindless at this point, because we're like slip casting them, and the low amount of kind of brain calories I have to spend on that allows us to get more experimental with, you know, our mug line or vases or whatever we want to make.
Because you use,
or like thinking about that next class.
put your head
what do
down,
we want to offer?
lock in, knock out X amount of vessels.
Yeah.
It's
Simple.
created a lot of freedom switching to slip casting, which has been like, we're coming up on about a year of that.
So just real quick, slip
Sure.
casting is you have a mold.
Yeah,
basically.
you pour liquid. It's clay and water and this thing called deflocculants, which allows the clay to act more as a liquid than a solid, even though there's not that much more water in
That's
the clay.
cool.
And then the
Deflocculants?
deflocculant.
Deflocculants.
Yeah.
Funny word, yeah.
It's like a molecular lubricant,
cool.
and it
Okay.
just like
Yeah.
gets in between the clay particles and makes them act as liquid.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen you spin before, so it's like
Right.
yeah, you could see the way it moves.
Right.
I didn't realize there was a
No, this
No,
like
that's
we have like essentially we have a
It's-
sump pump attached to a hose, and then we
Whoa.
with a pour spout, and then we pour it into molds that the plaster of the molds pulls the moisture out of it, and then you set a time.
Yeah.
You set just like a time for how thick you want the walls of the vessels to be, and then it's
and like the longer it sits in there, you know, the
Yeah.
thicker the clay will be.
sorry, that was a big
No, that's
tangent.
cool. That's
but,
nuts. No, I mean, I asked. And
yeah,
I tried
yeah.
to say the word. I'm not going to try it again.
deflocculant.
Okay, cool. All right, well, I think, here's my closing note. For anyone who's unaware of Lovelight, this place is really cool. You get stuff online. The candles are truly spectacular, and they don't kill you from the inside out like a lot of these other ones do. I get terrified to light candles unless it's one from here. And the cool part is I just reuse the vessel. And I just kind of want to give that shout out because we talked about so many things. We barely talked about candles. But really, I mean, that's something if someone's interested in this, you get a candle right now.
Yeah.
Online.
Yeah.
That's shipped to you. You could see what the pottery is like. You could smell the fragrance, which are fantastic. You guys got seasonal ones.
Yeah.
But other than that, any final notes you guys might have?
No.
Not
don't
really.
think so.
Check out Lovelight on YouTube.
Yeah,
We
honestly,
haven't launched our YouTube yet. So
check out
here
Lovelight
you
on
go.
YouTube. They got some shorts going, and well,
Videos
this
are
this
up.
podcast is on YouTube, so I could probably even link that
Perfect.
within
Perfect.
the description.
Awesome.
Because that would be a cool way to go. But I really just want to thank both you guys, Mike, Liv. Just
Thank you
Thank
too.
you.
having
This
us.
has been really
Chris,
fun.
this was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, James, as well in the back.
Yeah, shout out to James, man. James really holding it down. I had a
James
whole,
on the ones and twos.
I had a whole tangent in the last episode that we started the episode where I was like, "Wait, James, you have the cameras all right?" And he had the cameras all right, but for me, I'm used to being,
The
on
one
the board.
in control.
So I go,
yeah.
but
yeah.
good
Yeah.
hands, good
Yeah,
hands over
for
there.
sure.
Thanks
So,
for making this so easy.
I'm glad it felt that way. Truly, that's actually a huge compliment. But all right, appreciate it, and I guess we'll catch you next time.
Sweet.
Yay.
Adios.
Bye. Dude, you're good.
Thank you.
That was good.
You were really good. You had no notes.
Nothing.
You
I
didn't
ha- I have
stutter.
to- well, this is I have to.
You didn't stutter once.
I have to,
James was vibing over here.